Welcome to Raving Ryan. I'm your host, Ryan Anastasio. Today I have a very special guest. He's running for the Democratic nomination for governor in 2018, Guy Smith. Mr. Smith, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's great to have you here. Guy, this is your first time you're running for public office. You've previously served as the vice chairman of AmeriCares, which is a humanitarian relief organization, as well as a senior executive at Diageo, a beverage company, and most notably as a special advisor to President Bill Clinton, and recently as the radio spokesperson for Hillary Clinton. Can you tell us more about your previous careers and how it will help you to be governor of this state?
Sure. You know, for the last several decades, actually, I was a senior officer of two big global corporations, one of which is Diageo, headquartered in Norwalk, Connecticut, largest beverage company in the world, and then AmeriCares, which is the iconic disaster relief humanitarian organization that's headquartered in Stamford. I was on the board for many, many years, and I ran the operation as the executive for a number of years also. And in that process, I traveled to every imaginable disaster around the world, taking medical supplies, for emergency trauma medical supplies. And then I worked at the White House for President Clinton, directly for him, during the impeachment proceedings.
This was during the Monica Lewinsky scandal, which was a very tense time. What was it like working in the White House during this scandal?
Well, it was indeed a scandal, and what we said publicly at the time, and I will say again today, was what the president did was wrong and immoral and reprehensible, but it was not unconstitutional. And so the remedy that the Republicans
So he should have been impeached.
was that he should have been impeached. That wasn't what most Americans felt was not the remedy. So it became a divisive political issue. And it was very tense. It was very political because the Republicans had made it very political, not unlike where we are today with the divisiveness that goes on. But let me tell you this, even in the midst of that political, constitutional, and personal crisis, President Clinton, and I watched this, I learned from this, Newt Gingrich, who was the Speaker of the House, and was trying to put him out of office, literally out of office. But
Well, the House did impeach him.
Yeah. But at night, would come to the White House, we'd go down to the bowling alley, eat pizza, have a beer, and work on legislation that helped people. This is the kind of thing that we must do. And what happens, one of the reasons people are so disgusted in Connecticut with Hartford, our state government, is that they don't talk to each other. They talk past each other. And we must find a way to sit down and come together and work on these. We have big problems in Connecticut, but we have big, big resources in Connecticut. We can solve these problems. We must solve them. There's not an option. We must solve these problems. And we have to address the kinds of issues that people care about that affect their lives every day, that affect their children, that affect education, certainly that affect our transportation.
Yeah, and you say the state has big problems. We also have a very big deficit. It's over $200 million right now, and if you are elected governor, it's probably going to be even larger. So what are you going to do as governor to combat this deficit and get us in a surplus?
Well, what we're going to do is arrest the departure of people and departure of jobs from the state. We cannot sustain our state if we have people moving out all the time, if we have companies moving out all the time. We must change that so that jobs come back in, that millennials come back in. I have a number of programs that we will implement that will help bring jobs back into Connecticut, that will help stabilize jobs that are here. We must train people better with our VOC-TEC system. We have a very good VOC-TEC system. It needs to be more. Now, the other thing, I am not going to raise taxes. People in Connecticut pay enough taxes. But what we don't do with their money is spend it very wisely. And that is, we have to address big issues like transportation. I just came to this interview from the western part of the state, and it took hours on the Merritt Parkway. We have to address this. And the way we can address it is to there's $4.5 billion of shovel-ready transportation projects ready to go right now, and they won't be released by the governor and the legislature. We need to release those projects. We need to build those bridges, fix the bridges, and here's why we need to do it right today. If a CEO of a big company is thinking about putting a $100 million expansion on their factory, and they can't get their trucks across the bridge to their factory, they won't spend the $100 million here. They'll go to Mississippi or Peru and spend it there. So we have to do it today. Now, does that mean that we'll fix the deficit on day one? No, we won't, and we probably don't need to. What we need to do is address this situation where jobs and companies are leaving our state. We have to turn that around so they come back to our state. Then we'll solve the deficit problem. But first, we have to bring jobs back in.
But your solutions are likely going to be long-term, and they may not be accomplished during your term as governor. What can we do, if elected, what will you do right away to get the deficit down? Are there any departments that you would consider eliminating?
Well, not eliminating, but let me give you a specific example to that question, because a lot of your viewers are going to say, well, yeah, all politicians say we're going to bring in jobs, we're going to fix the problems. Well, there's some problems that we can fix right now. The Department of Transportation. We have a big transportation problem in this state. I'm going to turn the Department of Transportation upside down. There's problems with its management. Let me tell you, it is not the guys driving the snowplows. They work hard, they do great work, and they keep our roads safe. And all of those the folks that do that kind of work, that's not the problem. Here's the problem. Why does it cost twice as much money and take twice as long to build a bridge in Connecticut than it does in Massachusetts? It's just as hot in Massachusetts, it's just as cold, and the trucks are just as heavy. Why does it take so much? We hire too many outside consultants when we have highly competent employees in the Department of Transportation who are employed by the state, who know how to design roads, who know how to design bridges. We don't need all these outside consultants that we're paying millions of dollars to. We need to spend that money on roads and bridges, not on consultants.
Talked about the governor. He called off a lot of transportation projects here on the Merritt Parkway. He called off the renovation of the Heroes Tunnel, and he said there's just not the money for these projects. So how are you going to do these infrastructure projects if there's no money? We saw the news out of Florida, 6 people died when a bridge fell. So we have problems with infrastructure, and it needs to be fixed, or people are going to get hurt. So
you're making my point.
Yeah.
You're making my point. That's why we need to do them right now, today.
Where's the money going to come from?
Well, we have this thing called a rainy day fund. It's raining in Connecticut. We'll use it. If we need to change our bonding authority and borrow more money, we will. We're not going to do it on the backs of the people of Connecticut. They're already paying too many taxes. Another thing is tolls. Tolls annoy people. All these politicians are, well, we got to have tolls. It'll collect $800 million. Yeah, that's $800 million of your dollars. So here's how you do that. You do it electronically, so people from Massachusetts or New Jersey or Wyoming that are driving through, they pay the tolls and you don't. And there is a legal way to do that so that that can be done, so because your taxes and all your viewers' taxes are already paying for the roads. Why should you pay more on the tolls? We are the only state from Virginia to Maine that doesn't collect tolls. But we need to collect them from people from out of state who aren't paying anything, and they're literally getting a free ride driving through our state. That's what we're going to stop.
Yeah, when Connecticut eliminated tolls in 1983, they made an agreement that they could not collect. Now they wouldn't. If they were to put tolls, they could not just put border tolls right now. You wouldn't be able to collect money.
No, so, here's how you do that.
Wouldn't it cause a disruption to people, tolls all across the state?
No, it wouldn't. Here's how you do it. Tolls these days are electronic, digital. You give everybody in the state a debit card from MasterCard or Visa or somebody. They put their money on the debit card, but all year long they pay the tolls with that debit card. At the end of the year...
Is that going to cost money to get the debit card to citizens in Connecticut?
Sure, MasterCard will pay for it because they're going to be their card. That's the deal here. And then at the end of the year, let's say you've paid $416 in tolls. MasterCard or Visa, or whoever has the contract, files electronically with the Department of Revenue Services that you paid $416 in tolls, and that goes into your tax file. When you file your state tax return, you get a tax credit, not a tax deduction, a credit. That means you don't have to pay. But people from Massachusetts don't file tax returns in Connecticut, so they have to pay the tolls.
And I want to move into another issue, and it's about keeping businesses in the state of Connecticut. A few years ago, General Electric left, and now Alexion's planning on leaving, and many other businesses are leaving. So if elected as governor, what are you going to do to try to keep businesses in the state and have a pro-business friendly environment that is clearly lacking today?
Well, one of the things that we need to do is to continue the incentives that we have for the big corporations, different kinds of incentive for small businesses, which I'll talk about, but for the big corporations, GE moved because the CEO wanted to live in Boston. What can you do about that? That's really why GE moved.
Well, there's a new CEO now. Is it you talking about that CEO or Jeff Immelt?
Well, not Immelt, no, the new guy. But they're gone. It's too bad. That's history. Okay. What we have in Connecticut are some really good programs that incentivize great big corporations to stay. We need to fine tune those so that they're guaranteed when they get a big tax credit, $50 million type level tax credits, they're required to promise for at least like a decade to keep the jobs in Connecticut. The current program that we have is you get a tax credit, big tax credit, if you promise to put jobs here. If you don't put the jobs, you don't get the credit. That isn't how I'm going to do it. You tweak the program so you want the tax credit, you get it, but we get the jobs and we're guaranteed the jobs. That's down in the weeds, but this is a part of being governor. You got to be down in the weeds because you got to know those kind of details.
The problem with tax incentives that some may argue is that once you give incentives to one business, everyone's going to be asking for it, and it's just not possible to give tax incentives to everyone. So, is there another option besides tax incentives?
Yes, growth. The only way we're going to solve this is through growth. And if you have a growing economy, and you get that by bringing more people in who have good jobs, who are paying taxes, who are spending money into the economy. You know, for every dollar that gets spent in the economy, it rolls 7 times. We don't have enough people putting money into the economy. We have people that are leaving the state. We need people to come into the state. And you do need to have some incentives for that so that we have a level playing field with the other states that are in our region. We can do this, and we can do it without raising taxes.
The governor, as well as other politicians in the state, have been trying to lower big corporations to the state, notably Amazon, and Senator Bob Duff tried to get Delta to come here. The state spent around $40,000 on its Amazon bids, and we didn't even meet the criteria for that Amazon had set out for people applying. Do you think we need to get more smaller corporations and make the state more business friendly before we start trying to get large corporations such as Amazon?
Well, I think we ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We need to be able to do both. I mean, they're not mutually exclusive. The Amazon thing is history. We got to quit worrying about it.
Should we have done the Amazon thing?
Well, we should. I'm glad we tried. We didn't succeed. I don't know the details of why we didn't succeed, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try again. What we need to think about, though, are jobs of the future as well as the manufacturing jobs that we have here, which is an important component of Connecticut's economy. But the coming component is high tech.
And General Electric moved to Boston, and Aetna was supposed to move to New York City, but they pulled out after CVS bought them. Right. Is it possible to compete with big cities such as Boston and New York? Because these places have a lot more people, a lot more businesses already there. Is it possible for us to compete with a place such as Boston?
Yes, it is. I'm trying to not say something negative about Boston or New York. Here's the deal. They cost a lot of money to be there.
It costs a lot of money to be here.
Yes, it does. But there's something called the value proposition of government and a place to live. And it's lesser hassle. Now, the hassle factor, sort of like the groan factor. Everywhere you go around the state, people groan when you say Hartford. Well, our transportation creates hassle, right? You know, New York City has hassle factors too. Boston has hassle factors. Yeah. What we need to do is do specific things that reduce the hassle factor for just a citizen. That's why I said on tolls. Tolls annoy people. I don't want to annoy people. I'm not going to run a government that annoys people. I'm going to reduce hassles. And I'm also going to protect this state from the hassles that are coming out of Washington. That is a major component of my campaign, is to protect people in Connecticut from the Trump Republicans.
Yeah, and I want to read a quote that you said about the Trump Republicans. You said in a previous interview, I'm going to call in every Trump Republican office holder in the state of Connecticut, whether you're a local tax collector or a mayor. If you're a Republican, you need to renounce this Trump Republican harm that is being caused on the people of this state. And if you refuse to renounce him, it means that you're complicit in it and you're causing the harm to the people of our state. What do you mean by this? How is a local tax collector causing harm to the people of the state?
Because they're empowering the Trump Republicans. And here's a specific
Just because they're Republican? Just because they're a Republican?
Uh-huh. Yes.
By being a Republican?
Yes, they are, if they won't renounce it. Here's what happened. They all said this tax scam that the Congress passed recently was a wonderful thing. It used to be that if a teacher bought a box of crayons for their class, they could deduct the cost of this on their tax return as a business expense. Well, it went away. The Trump Republicans took it away from teachers. However, if Pratt & Whitney or Sikorsky closes their factory and moves to Bangladesh, every dime they spend closing it down and moving is deductible from their taxes. Another thing, these Trump Republicans want to put an oil rig out in Long Island Sound. They actually want to put an oil rig.
Does local tax collectors want to do that?
They haven't said it's a bad idea. From Greenwich to Mystic, every Republican coastal office holder has not said this is a bad idea. Why are they not saying that? It's because they're complicit in it. Also, they're taking away insurance from little kids. They're shutting down daycare centers. They're taking money away from our state, DEPP, the Environmental Protection Agency. The people that are running, these Trump Republicans that are running the Interior Department, the Energy Department, the EPA, they don't even believe in climate change. These people are troglodytes, and they're harming our state. We have to stop it, and as governor, I will work with the other governors in the region, like Andrew Cuomo, to stop this. We have to stop it, and it takes a strong leadership to stop it. Our congressional delegation in Connecticut are all Democrats. They work both in the Senate and the House. They work very hard, and they're very effective at stopping it. We need the state government to continue to work to stop it too. We have to do this, and if we don't, Connecticut is getting screwed.
Don't you think we should work with? Do you think will you work with the White House by just going after the president? Nothing is going to get done. So, if elected as governor, will you try to work with the president and try to get things done for the state of Connecticut?
I am the biggest critic of Donald Trump and of his administration and of the things they're doing. I've never said I won't talk to him. I will talk to anybody. I will talk to anybody who can help this state.
So you will work with the Trump administration if elected as
I
governor?
will work with anybody that'll help Connecticut. And I will oppose anybody that's trying to harm Connecticut. But I'll talk to anybody, I'll collaborate with anybody, whether it's Donald Trump personally or even these people who don't believe in climate change that work for him.
And many members of the Connecticut congressional delegation have gone after President Trump a lot on television, and the president has not been happy with that. He's tweeted at Senator Blumenthal. Do you think by attacking the president and going after him, do you think that hurts the possibility of working with him and actually getting something done?
No, I think it actually helps because it calls attention of the country and of the people in our state and of the rest of the Congress to the kind of lunacy.
The possibility of legalizing recreational marijuana has been discussed a lot by the state legislatures, and the governor has talked about it a little. If it's possible that it could be done this legislative session, but it could happen. If you're elected governor, you might be faced with the issue of legalizing recreational marijuana. If elected, are you in support of legalizing marijuana?
I am, and here's where I am on recreational marijuana. I favor it, and I favor it with only one proviso. We need to have, for law enforcement, the equivalent of an alcohol breathalyzer so that a police officer can do a roadside test of impairment just like on alcohol. That doesn't exist for marijuana today, but it's only about a year away. It's not, the technology is almost ready.
What would be the age limit what age limit are you in favor of? How old should you be to?
On marijuana?
Yeah.
Well,
Should be
whatever.
18,
Well, it could be
21.
21, 18. Let's talk to people. Let's see what you know, it can be 18. I think, you know, 18, everybody doing everything else at 18. You join the Army, you go to war, you know, you can vote. Seems like you ought to be able to drink then too, but only with some rules. You know, we got to have some rules, and that would be in the regulatory element of this as we implement it.
And I'm going to finish up with some personal questions.
Sure.
Do you have any hobbies?
I play tennis, and I like to cook.
And Connecticut is really well known for its pizza places. Some call it Connecticut Pizza Heaven. Do you have a favorite pizza place in the state?
You know, as I've traveled around the state campaigning, there's lots of places with pizza, and I got to tell you, I'm not going to tell you a specific place because I've had so many that's so good in so many places.
You got to have a favorite. What is it?
Oh, well, I can tell you the kind of pizza I like. I like pizza with a lot of tomato sauce, a lot of cheese, and lots of sausage, and hot peppers.
Pepe's or Sally's?
I like them both. You know, I like.
Oh, you don't have a favorite?
I'm not going to tell you.
Come on. We want to know where the future governor gets his pizza.
The moment I'm elected, I'll tell you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Smith, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, go to my website, ravingryan.com. Follow Guy Smith on Facebook, Twitter, and follow me on Twitter at Raving Ryan and on Facebook, Raving Ryan. Thank you for watching. Reporting for Raving Ryan, I'm Ryan Anastasio.